everyone. It's Bob Perkins with AAISP's Inside Sales Studio with a short interview today. Our special guest today is Sayantan Mookherjee. Sayan, welcome. Sayan is the founder of 221B Baker Street and also one of our chapter presidents in India. And I know, let's see, it is 11 a.m. here in Phoenix, Arizona. How about where you are, Sayan?
Exactly 12 hours, 40 minutes from your time.
Yeah.
11:40 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on. So saying you and I have talked a lot about how marketing and prospecting and selling has been the same for a long time,
Right.
that a lot of times sales reps aren't sure of who they're trying to prospect to or marketing to, the need for personalization. Today, you're going to talk a little bit about the importance of understanding and using the buyer persona in this process. So let's go ahead and turn it over to you.
Absolutely. So we are going to talk about, and it's a complete educative process we are trying to do so that, every salesperson across the world and listeners of AAISP can learn a bit from what we do actually. So we are going to talk about, I hope you can see my screen. I'm sharing my screen right now. Yep.
Sure
Okay. Know it's like the potential buyer of your product or your services, but the problem with the designations, like for example, if you tell that there's a typical designation over here and you're reaching out to that person, that person is already bombarded with lots of emails itself. Now, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to find out other designations or other prospects who can be also either a buyer or an evaluator of your product itself, which reduces, which puts you in front of the organization which you are trying to target right now. And why is this new designations are coming up? One of the primary reason, one example which I've showed over here, like a chief integration officer. We always have reached out to people like a CIO, but nowadays there's a complete new concept of chief integration officer is coming up, who's trying to integrate all the data or the insights of which is sitting across, maybe in silos across the organization itself. So now again, so if we might not be even aware of it, what a chief integration officer is. Also, with keeping the millennial culture, maybe there are a lot of new designations coming up, like a data geek or like maybe a samurai or something like that. A lot of new designations are coming up nowadays, actually. So also for those reasons, so the typical designation when we used to say that, okay, you know what, we need to reach out to a CFO, we need to reach out to maybe a CEO, we need to reach out to a vice president of technology, not going to work anymore. Wow. So I'm going to give, now people might say, I will give an example. I hope you can still see my screen.
Still can,
okay.
Yep.
Great. So we found out a very funny scenario. That's what I'm going to show you right now, that people might say that, hey, you know what? We do have the function option in the sales navigator, right? So we can go to the function option and really do that. But unfortunately, that doesn't work. And this funny incident I found out from my organization itself. And that will really give and nail the examples which I'm trying to say. So we also we try to act some cool, and we also try to say that, okay, what are the designations which we have? So some of the designations which we might have: a senior account information hacker. Now, people might say that, okay, what is now if somebody wants to reach out to a lead generation person, but the designation is completely different. That's a senior like account sniper, shooter, and strategist, for example. That's the thing. And now they might say that, hey, let's go to the functions. If I go to the functions, it will be falling under the market research or lead generation or sales or business development.
Right.
Hold on, it won't. Right. We found out it falls under the military and protective services.
Of course, a sniper, right?
Exactly. So that's exactly what is happening over there. So doesn't work in that fashion. So sometimes it acts a bit stupid. But so what exactly should be done? I'm going to give an example of one of my major compensation management SaaS platform. And so the typical designations of the buyer persona would have been a CHRO or a senior vice president, HRs, and CFO and the controllers itself. What we try to do is that we try to do something different. What we said that's why we have said that keywords from features. So what we personally do for the last 5 years is that we read a product thoroughly. For example, in this case, the compensation SaaS platform, which they have. And what we do is that we find out some keywords from the features of that product.
Right.
For example, salary survey, compensation structure and benchmarking,
Yep.
employee rewards, diversity and inclusion,
Yep.
and playing with the words employee retention, turnover, transparency, churn, and loyalty, and things like that.
Yep.
So rather than going to the designations, we will rather go to profiles in Sales Navigator who are talking about these keywords, who in their about section or maybe in the previous section or in the endorsements, this particular keywords are present over there itself. So, for example, a person designation might not fall under the CHRO, SVP, VP director of HR, but this keywords might really be there over there, and that's the reason the designation can be completely different in that
Their
case.
designation might be operations, but
Absolutely, yeah,
and that might not think it would be good. But then if you look at some of the words they use now, does it look at their posts, at their profile? It looks at all of that and searches for like employee recognition or salary or compensation.
absolutely. So what happens, like HR operations is a really broad word, in fact. So what happens in that case, in the HR operations, that person might say that, hey, you know what, I've been overlooking for the entire East Coast salary survey. So in that case, now the designation is HR operations, which does not fall into the typical buyer persona,
Right.
but the keyword salary survey is over there itself.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, that can be a good target to go after. And
Good.
we are going to show that as well, how to do it here. So we call it as an onion ring, use a bit of pun, not the Thor, but the Tor or something like that. So we are going to really mean what we actually mean by the onion ring over here. So the Sales Navigator has quite a layered approach. Now I'm going to show that what exactly I mean. Let's take a huge organization as an example. Bob, if you have any organization in mind, you can tell me that. I'm going to.
Well, I always use IBM, but I'm not going to use IBM. Let's try Dell.
Sure. So I'm typing Dell right now. Let's go to Dell. The biggest problem with an organization like Dell is you can see that they have a huge employee size. So to scoop through the entire, again, that's the reason for which we're going to talk about the onion ring over here. What happens in the case of organizations like Dell, that they are located in multiple locations, A, B, they have multiple decision makers at different geographies itself. Now, how do you ensure that you're not going to miss those people? So the first thing we are going to definitely see that what's the headquarters of Dell. So I'm doing it literally headquarters of Dell so that you know what, like a 2-year-old kids, let's do it. So like, let's put it Texas, Round Rock. We can also, so first thing I'm going to do is Texas. Intentionally, I'm putting Texas, United States, 14,000 employees. Now, as I mentioned, I'm continuing with the same example which I put forward of the compensation benchmarking client which we have. So many times the seniority. So what we, as I'm talking about the it's an onion ring. So that's why I will start off with owner, partner, and a CXO. I'm sure we can always get the CEOs and the CFOs information from the management team or the management page or from the Google itself. But the problem is, but the advantage is that we can see at least about 350 results which are coming up. Now, as I mentioned before, the typical buyer persona might be a chief human resource officer or something like that. How about we really do something else? How about we put compensation as a keyword? The advantage which you
11 from 300 or 400.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in this fashion, what's happening that we are pinpointing on the designations who are working after. So maybe a chief human resource officer. I'm still saying that we will still reach out to a chief human resource officer. But the probability of a CHRO responding to your email is a bit less, although we did show in our last presentation that, okay, through customization, hyper customization, how can we also get a result from there? But that is not always possible. So what we are doing over here is that giving these keywords, you can see that we get about 11 results.
Right.
Not all the profiles will be correct. I'm not saying that all will be correct. For example, a finance consultant might not be correct. So, Or so that's the first level which we do it. Okay, CX owner. So maybe we give some more keywords, maybe put in a double quotes, we put salary survey. Okay, in this case, we don't get result. So we put employee engagement. It gets their results now. So
There you go.
this is the fashion we are actually literally removing the layers of the onion ring over here itself.
Right.
Now, we are trying to create a matrix over here. The first matrix is that we took the headquarters. That's the geography. We included the headquarters over here. And we are giving them the first priority with the seniority level. Then we can go back. We can remove the CXO owner partner. And then we can go to the VP in this case itself. So I'm going to remove the keywords. So in that case, the VP, the search results was, of course, yeah. So now the vice president is 300 results once again.
Right.
So again, we do an iterative thing. We give compensation. From 300, we again reduce it back to 15. And we need to keep that in mind that these are all being taken from the headquarter location. So I'm creating a matrix. Priority 1, headquarter location, and with the designations from top to bottom itself. That's the first thing which I'm doing over here. Similarly, right now, I hope you have got the hang of it. Like we can remove the VP.
Totally. I was just thinking that it's partly, I use the term, it's quality over quantity. I think in the past, people want to get as wide of a target market as possible, but in doing so, they're not targeting the message to the right person. You're targeting not just to the right person. You're going to target an appropriate message around compensation, salary survey, and you're hopefully it may be 10 people, but you may get 2 or 3 out of 10 that start a conversation.
Absolutely. So they can be a decision maker as well as the evaluator of your product itself. And most importantly, it's very effective in the case of really larger organization. Even in the case of the smaller organization, there might be a person who is working as a data geek. His designation is a data geek maybe, but that person might be a cloud solution architect.
Yeah.
He might be working on a cloud solution architect. So the beauty of this process is that you just have to go and understand your product or your client's product, actually understand what are the features over there. And once you understand the features of the product or if it's a services as well, that's totally fine. You can find out the features of that services as well and do the same algorithm over here itself. So that's one thing is this. So as I mentioned about the seniority, I created a matrix of that. What are the benefits? Of course, the first benefit is that you don't miss out any profiles. That's most important thing. Right. Second thing is that what are the more like you reach out to? It's more laser focused actually. Right. You're not, and finally that you're not missing out any evaluators as well. One important thing which I will talk about is right now. I went back a slide back because no one really thought about that diversity and inclusion will be such an important factor when we are talking about compensation. But with this society which we are living in right now, and everywhere we are talking about it, so we know it how diversity and inclusion is such an important topic right now. And that was a concept which we used, that rather than going after the compensation and things like that, why don't we go after the diversity and inclusion as a keyword?
Sure.
That exactly gave us the results. I'm really sorry for that. I literally had to
okay,
like I'm not going to show the the LinkedIn links, but these are the companies we got. So these were the highly qualified opportunities which we got from this organization, like a Bell Bank. We got from an EVP, Chief Culture Officer. No one really thought that, okay, Chief Culture Officer will be a person who's going to come up for a designation to discuss about your compensation structure or your compensation benchmarking, actually. Or maybe a Director, Social Responsibility, Inclusion, and Diversity. Again, not really we thought about it, but again, when we realized that this can be a keyword which we can use it. So again, this does not fall into your typical buyer persona of a chief human resource officer or a director of HR or something like that. Tons of example we got. We got a VP of people, director of talent acquisition, and these are all from literally organizations across the world. We got it. And these are the designations which we got. So yeah, that's the way it worked, and that's the way it works.
So it's a lot. It's definitely more focused, more.
Yep.
It's really. I like your onion analogy. It's peeling back the layers a little bit to get to the best possible target, the best possible person.
Right.
Sayan, that was very fascinating. I hope those watching this,
Mhm.
maybe your LinkedIn Navigator users, you've learned something here. Please give us some feedback.
Sure.
Share your own tips. Sayan, what's the best way for anybody watching to maybe connect with you to have a further conversation?
We can use LinkedIn itself. I think that's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Get out to LinkedIn and connect with Sayan. So Sayan, thanks so much for sharing this. And
Absolutely.
until next time, everyone, good selling.